Welcome back to the War Room. We're here for another army review. Today we're going to be looking at the Disciples of Tzeentch, a very magic-heavy army. I just played against them in a local tournament, and they can do a lot of really fun stuff. They got a lot of teleport mechanics, a lot of recursion, ways to bring guys back, and a lot of things have a ward save, which is pretty awesome. Armor save's not great, but it is a fun army, and I'm excited to dive into this. Starting off with our battle traits. The first one is Masters of Destiny. Roll 9 dice and place them on one side. These are your Destiny dice. Destiny dice can be spent during the battle to change certain dice rolls. You can never have more than 9 Destiny dice at once. During the battle, instead of making a roll from the list below for a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch unit, you can spend your Destiny dice. The roll you would have made is replaced with the roll on the Destiny dice you spend. If you want to replace a 2d6 roll, 3d6 roll, etc., you must spend a number of Destiny dice equal to the number before d6. Any rolls that have been replaced count as unmodified rolls, and they cannot be re-rolled. They cannot be modified by other friendly abilities except for those that apply negative modifiers, but they can be modified by enemy abilities. You cannot spend Destiny dice to replace re-rolls. So, Destiny dice can be spent in place of the following dice rolls: casting rolls, unbinding rolls, banishment rolls, run rolls, charge rolls in your turn, hit rolls, wound rolls, save rolls. So this is really awesome. If you wanted to cast something and it was a very important spell, you could just say, I'm taking 2 6s, and this is going off on a 12, even though you have a lot of ways in this army to be plus to cast. So you could, use a couple 5s, whatever. Unbinding is always key. Sometimes you see other armies and you've got a chance to negate them, something big like a teleport or a whole bunch of mortal wounds coming into you, or -1 rend, -1 your armor save. So that's another good one. Banishment rolls, you can just get rid of a manifestation. And that one you don't have to use such high numbers because a lot of manifestations are banished on a 7+. Run rolls, it's essentially getting you more movement. Charge rolls is big because you hate to fail a charge. The thing with these is that you can't, like it said earlier, you can't use these dice on a reroll. So you just have to decide from the start. You're like, I'm scared of this 7. I don't have a reroll. I got to make a 7-inch charge. I'm just going to use these dice. Or if you have like a long bomb charge, like gotta make this. That's another good way to do it. Hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls. I don't know if I would really do this for hit and wound, but for saves especially, like if you are getting hit by something that's rend 2 or 3 and you have almost no armor, you're down to like a 6-up armor save, and you're like, oh, I saved this, and if it's like a cannon or something or any of those big monsters that are D3 plus 2 damage, you can just negate that pretty easily. Conflagration of Tzeentch. I butchered that, I'm sorry. Once per turn per army in any shooting phase, pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by Weird Flame spell abilities or shooting attacks made with weapons that have the Weird Flame weapon ability to be the target. The target has the burning keyword. We'll talk about burning, and the next one is burning. This is just a way to make more things be burning. It's once per turn per army, but if you used a spell or if you shot at someone with something that has weird flame ability, they're burning. We'll move on to burning, and I'll kind of explain how these two work in sequence along with the other battle trait as well. So burning weird flame, inflict D3 mortal damage on each burning enemy unit, manifestation, and faction terrain feature. And this is once per turn per army at the end of any turn. And the wording on it is a little tricky because it's once per turn per army. But then if you read here, it says inflict D3 mortal damage on each burning enemy unit. It just means you can't, have this trigger twice on the same units. But everybody who's burning D3 mortal damage is pretty awesome. And so with that shooting one, if you shot at someone with a weird flame weapon or a weird flame spell, they're also burning. And so this just helps you to chip away at enemies, and especially you playing against something that's got a lot of armor. Anything that does mortal damage is super, super good. And then if someone wants to get rid of burning, it's called Quenching the Flames. If an ability would heal or return slain models to a burning enemy unit, manifestation, or terrain feature, that ability does not heal or return any slain models to it. Instead, it no longer has the burning keyword. So this is very similar to Nurgle's disease points and disease counters. Instead of healing or bringing things back, you just remove the burning keyword. And then the next turn, you just put them on fire again. So it's a very nice mechanic, especially because most of your army here is not going to be super tanky, and so your ability to kill things really is going to help you determine the outcome of the game. And so being able to just chip away at everything every turn, especially since the burning weird flame is end of any turn, not just your turn, 2d3 mortal damage potentially every battle round. You add that up, that it really gets to a lot if you just have burning units. So we'll move on to battle formations. The Arcanite Cabal, Sinister Counter Hexes. Add 1 to unbinding rolls for friendly Arcanite units. In addition, if it is a friendly Arcanite unit, unbinds a spell. No command points are spent for that unit to use the magical intervention command in that phase. Here's where you start to see the magic really come in handy. +1 to unbind. It's so good. +1 to unbind is so awesome, and there's a lot of ways to get it with this army, and a lot of ways to make you minus to cast and things like that. Any minus to anything or plus to unbind is just, it's so good. It is an awesome battle formation, and it's passive too. So we'll get to who the Arcanite units are here in a little bit. You got the Zangor Coven, the Screeching Warflock. Each time a friendly Warflock unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. The Warflock essentially are your Zangor, so the Zangor Enlightened. You're just regular Zangors on discs. So when you're rallying them, instead of having 6 or 7, if you have a musician, you're rolling 9 dice or 10 dice looking for 4-ups, so averaging out, that's 5 wounds you can get back. You can really, if you spike on those, you could get a couple of guys back when you rally. Instead of being 1 or just healing wounds, you could bring 2 full Zangor back, which is super awesome. There's another ability we'll get to in a second with one of the heroes that's very similar to this as well. So being able to roll 3 extra dice with your battle formation and 3 extra dice with one of these heroes kind of just makes it seem a little broken. Change host. Once per battle per army, at the end of your turn, pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch demon unit that is in combat to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, remove the target from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield. Each model in the target unit must be set up in combat with any of the enemy units that the target was in combat with before it was removed from the battlefield. This is once per battle, so it's very situational, I feel like. As I understand it, right, you got to pick one of your own units that's in combat. You have to be in combat with the units you were in combat with before. You can't jump around from combat to combat, as I understand it. I think you can still hop into new combats. You just have to still be in combat with the unit you were in combat with before. So this kind of seems not as good as some of these other ones, but if someone was blocking off an objective and you charged in there, at the end of your turn, you could just hop up and over them onto the other side. It's still on a roll of a 3 up too, which is a little tricky. The chances of that are high, but they're not automatic, and it's once per battle. So I'm not a huge fan of this one, but I can see where if you're trying to get onto an objective and take it from someone, this is a way you could do it. And then the Weird Flame host, Mutagenic Inferno. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by burning enemy units. So already you can pair up all this burning stuff, and we haven't even gotten into the units or anything yet, but if units are burning, not only are they taking mortal damage at the end of the turn, but they're also -1 to wound for attacks. It doesn't say combat attacks, it doesn't say shooting attacks, it is just all attacks made by burning enemy units. That seems super awesome, especially if you're fighting against some monsters and things that are wounding on 2s and 3s or whatever. They're burning, they're wounding on 3s, they're wounding on 4s. If you're elves, you're wounding on 5s. It's really interesting to kind of see what you can do with all of this burning stuff. Okay, moving on to the heroic traits. This is something you can give to one of your heroes. So you got the Illusionist. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target friendly units while they are wholly within this unit's combat range. That one seems really good, but the wholly within this unit's combat range is kind of weird and kind of tricky. It's only a 3-inch range. Granted, if you put it on a big hero, you've got a big, wide area to work with around your base, but it's only wholly within this unit's combat range. So I don't know how good that is. Still being -1 to hit if you're fighting a hero is pretty solid. Nexus of Fate. This is in your hero phase. Roll a dice. You must replace 1 of your destiny dice with that roll. If you, at the beginning of the game, on your destiny dice, rolled a whole bunch of 1s or 2s or some things you're not going to be able to use, this is just something where you can just keep on, cycling out your destiny dice, and if you're getting good rolls on these, then you can just replace the bad rolls from your destiny dice. Cult Demagogue. This is a passive effect. If each dice in the casting roll for this unit has the same value and the spell is not miscast, add 3 to the casting roll. So Tzeentch has a lot of these things where you can kind of mirror your casting dice. So like if you roll double 4s, you add 3 to it. If you roll double 5s, you add 3 to it. It's not gonna happen super often, but if it does, it just makes +3 to cast, plus a lot of your heroes are gonna be +1 to cast, +2 to cast, whatever. So you get a lot of magic power out of that one. Moving on to artifacts of power. The 9-eyed tome, add 1 to casting rolls and banishment rolls for this unit. So here's where you start to see these +1s to cast, +1 to banish. It's not +1 to unbind, so banishing is just manifestations, but being plus to banish manifestations is awesome. The weird flame blade. If any damage points are allocated to an enemy unit by this unit's combat attacks, that enemy unit has the burning keyword. So this is another way to make something burning. So if you give this to your little foot hero that you know is going to be, or one of your heroes that's going to be fighting a whole bunch, if you get any damage through, they're burning. And then at the end of the turn, they take D3 mortals. Super awesome. I'm a huge fan of the burning mechanic. It's pretty nasty. Ambition's End. This is once per battle in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. In addition, subtract 1 from casting rolls for the target for the rest of the battle. Getting your enemy's wizard to -1 to cast, and you are a magic heavy army, it'll just be impossible for them to unbind your stuff. This is in combat that you do this. So the earlier you can do it is probably better as far as getting the most out of this, because your opponent will be -1 to casting for the rest of the game. But that also means throwing whatever hero has this on them into an enemy wizard, and I don't think it's going to be super easy to do that turn 1. I do like these artifacts of power and the heroic traits. I think there's a couple good ones in there, and I think you can pair these up pretty well and have a very effective hero or two. The spell lore. Glimpse the future. Pick friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast the spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set aside any destiny dice that have a value of 6 and roll all of your other destiny dice again. If you have no destiny dice, roll a dice and add it to your destiny dice. So this is another way to kind of weed out all of your dice that are not as good. If you had a bad roll at the beginning of the game, or if you had used this spell and didn't roll super well, you set aside all your 6s, which is awesome, and then you get to roll all the rest of them. Or if you're out, this gets you another one. The Infernal Gateway. Pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll either 4 dice or a number of dice equal to the number of destiny dice you have left, whichever is greater. For each 4+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. This one, the earlier you can do it is better, right? Because you have more dice. You start with 9 and you slowly are using them throughout the game. 4 up, you're doing mortals. So if you have 9 dice, you're doing 4 or 5 on average. It's pretty solid. You got to be close to people with this one because you have to be within 12 inches. But if you got a unit that's right up in you, right off the bat, and you can just throw some mortals right at them to start. The Shield of Fate. Pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Disciples of Tzeentch unit wholly within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. The target has a ward of 5+ until the start of your next turn. In addition, if you have 4 or more destiny dice left, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target that unit until the start of your next turn. Give a unit a 5-up ward, and then it is also -1 to be hit if you have 4 or more destiny dice left. So if you have half of your destiny dice left, then this spell becomes even better. So more of the spell lore. We've got the Bolt of Tzeentch. Pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. And this also has the weird flame keyword. This unit will be burning if you get if you get it off. Fold Reality, pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Disciples of Tzeentch unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Remove the target from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So here's our first little teleport thing that she got. Get the heck out of there. Get a wizard away. Go hop on an objective that your opponent's left. It goes off on a 7, so it's not too crazy to get, especially with all the pluses you can add up to. It's not too wild to get that off. And then Transformed to Spawn. Pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Inflict d3 mortal damage on the target if any models are slain by this ability. Pick a friendly Chaos Spawn of Tzeentch unit that is in reserve as a potential fate, or that has been destroyed. If you picked a unit in reserve as a potential fate, set it up on the battlefield in combat with the target. If you picked a unit that has been destroyed, set up an identical replacement on the battlefield in combat with the target. The wording on that is a little tricky, but essentially if you kill any models with this spell, you throw in a Chaos Spawn in combat with them. And then that second part is just saying that, like, you can do this as many times as you want, because the Chaos Spawn have a little rule. We'll get to them later. But even if you have a Chaos Spawn that's already been destroyed, you can just use another one. So this is awesome to kind of pin things down, like little infantry units that have 1 health, and if it's inflict d3, it's not on a 2-up or anything, so you'll be getting at least 1 mortal damage if you get 3. Even if that unit has a ward save, 1 guy probably goes down. You throw in a Chaos Spawn in there just for the heck of it. It's just kind of like a funny thing to me. I'm all about the kind of meme things that happen in Warhammer, and this is 100% one of them. Moving on to the manifestation lore, you can have the Tome of Eyes. If there is not a friendly Tome of Eyes on the battlefield, pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up a Tome of Eyes wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. It's got a 4-up armor save, no movement, 5 health, vanishes on a 7. This goes off, you declared a spell ability for a wizard within this manifestation's combat range. So you can add 1 or 2 to the casting roll for that spell. Roll a number of dice equal to the amount added. For each 1 to 2, allocate 1 damage point to the caster. If the caster is destroyed by this ability, the spell has no effect. So it's essentially just helping you get your spells off at the cost of possibly doing damage back to yourself. Once again, just helping you to control magic. Demonic Simulacrum. If there's not a friendly Demonic Simulacrum on the battlefield, pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up the Demonic Simulacrum wholly within 12 inches of the caster, visible to them, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. It's got a 6-up save, 9-inch movement, 8 health, vanishes on a 7+. Its melee weapon, it's got snapping jaws, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3. It is anti-wizard, +1 rend, so this is your wizard killer here. Considering most wizards don't have a whole bunch of armor, being 2 rend onto wizards is probably going to do enough to get through armor or put them onto like a 6-up armor save. The Manifested Jaws ability, while this manifestation attacks target a wizard, add a number equal to that wizard's power level to the damage characteristic of this unit's snapping jaws. So, especially with that ability, if you're fighting a level 2 wizard, your d3 plus 2 damage on 4 attacks is super solid at rend 2. That's really what it's good for, is to go kill wizards. The Burning Sigil of Tzeentch. If there is not a friendly Burning Sigil of Tzeentch on the battlefield, pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Set up a Burning Sigil of Tzeentch wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. 5-up armor save, cannot move, 6 health, and then it's banished on a 7+. So this manifestation must use this ability in each hero phase. Pick each unit, friendly and enemy, within 9 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Roll 2 dice, pick either result, then apply the corresponding effect for the rest of the turn. So if you roll a 1, nothing happens. a 2 or a 3, add 2 to the move characteristic of friendly Disciples of Tzeentch targets and subtract 2 inches from the move characteristic of enemy targets. On a 4, you add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Disciples of Tzeentch targets and subtract 1 from hit rolls for enemy targets. On a 5, you add 1 to wound rolls for friendly Disciples of Tzeentch targets and subtract 1 from wound rolls for enemy targets. On a 6, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Disciples of Tzeentch targets and inflict D3 mortal damage on each enemy unit. So this one I think is pretty solid. You just throw it right out in there, and it buffs you, and it debuffs your enemy. Okay, we're going to hop into the War Scrolls now. We'll start off with Kairos Fate Weaver. So he's got a 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 16 health, and control 5. 4 attacks with the Staff of Tomorrow, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage D3. And the Curved Beaks got 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. So he is battle damaged if he gets 10 damage points or more. Then the attack's characteristic of his Curved Beaks is 3 instead of 5. The Mastery of Magic. When you complete a casting roll for this unit, you can change the lowest d6 to match the highest d6. I didn't understand this one super well when I played against the guy in the tournament, but essentially, so you, like on your casting rolls, you roll 2d6. So if you rolled a 6 and a 1, you could change the 1 to match the 6. So there's a whole bunch of times where he was playing with Kairos and he'd roll, and it would be like, oh, I rolled a 5 and a 2, but I'm going to change that 2 to a 5, so now it's a 10, and I'm plus 2 to cast, whatever. And so then he just kept doing stuff like that. I don't know if I ever unbound or any of his spells. He just got everything that he wanted off because I only had one wizard, and so I had to pick and choose, but everything was going off on a 12 or a 13 or a 14. So this is really good. If you want to get something off for sure, you use Kairos. And as long as you don't roll like double 1s or double 2s, like it's probably going to go off. The Oracle of Eternity, this is a once per battle. This is when you're picking your battle tactics. You can pick one battle tactic that you've already attempted, or you can pick 2 battle tactics that you have not yet attempted, but you can only complete one of them, even if you did complete both of them. The other doesn't count as having been attempted. If you do not complete either tactic, you can pick which one does not count as having been attempted. So this is when you get caught in kind of, I'm not sure what battle tactic I can get. He is able to have you pick 2, and then you can get one or the other, or you can pick one that you've already done. So you can do Take Their Lands twice, which is super awesome because Take Their Lands is super easy for the most part. If you pick 2 battle tactics, then whichever one you don't get, or if you don't get either of them, you get to pick one of them to having count as not been attempted, which is super awesome. The Beacon of Sorcery, add 1 to casting rolls and unbinding rolls for friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizards while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Plus 1 to cast, baby. That's awesome. Plus 1 to unbind. Here's where that first one that we see. It's not super common throughout Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So getting plus 1 to unbind is awesome. And plus 1 to cast is always good. The Arcane Suggestion. This is his War Scroll spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. It goes off on an 8, but he's plus 1 to cast, and you have the Mastery of Magic that can help him essentially get any spell off. But you pick one of the following effects to apply to the target until the start of your next turn. It's hopeless. The target cannot use commands. Drop your weapons. Subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls from the target's attacks. Kneel. Subtract 1 from save rolls for the target. So, awesome spell. You pick one of those things, and I mean, situationally, they're all good. So, you can stop someone from using all-out defense or all-out attack. You can stop someone, minus 1 to hit and wound. Elves are hitting you on 4s and wounding you on 5s is insane. And then minus 1 to save is really good as well. He is your War Master, and he is a Wizard level 3. So he's got 3 casts and a 5-up ward save. So armor's not great, but the 5-up ward save will make up for a lot of that. Moving on to the Lord of Change. This is your other big chicken, as they have been called. You got a 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 14 health, and then control 5. So he's got a ranged weapon. It's the Rod of Sorcery. It's 18 inches of range. 2d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and it has the weird flame ability. And then in his melee weapons, you got the Staff of Tzeentch, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage D3, and then it's anti-wizard, +1 rend. The Baleful Sword is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 3, and then the Curved Beak is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. So you have to pick between the Rod of Sorcery or the Baleful Sword. The Rod of Sorcery seems pretty awesome to me. The Baleful Sword being rend 2 is really good, so it's kind of just depends on what you want to run with him. He's battle damage when he has 10 or more damage points, and the attacks on his Curved Beak are 3 instead of 4. So it only goes down 1 attack, which isn't too crazy. Summon Demons of Tzeentch. So this is once per turn in your movement phase. Discard 1 Destiny dice, then pick a friendly non-hero, non-unique Disciples of Tzeentch demon unit that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, only within 9 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So once per turn, you can bring back, at the cost of 1 Destiny dice, you can bring back units at half strength, which is awesome. Any sort of recursion mechanic is really good. The Locus of Change, subtract 1 from hit rolls for combat attacks that target friendly Disciples of Tzeentch demon units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Everything's -1 to hit around him, essentially, which is really, really good. It's different than like the heroic trait or the artifact of power that was just wholly within your combat range. That was weird. But this one, he is just -1 to hit, which is pretty awesome. And then Tzeentch's Firestorm. This is his spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll 9 dice. For each 6, inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. It goes off on a 7. It is really good. He's next to Kairos. He's +1 to cast too. Next to place of power, he's an extra +1, so you're just looking for 5 on the dice to get this off. You're probably not going to roll a whole lot of 6s, but if you spike this and you get like 3d3 mortal damage can just kill an enemy hero in the blink of an eye. He's a 2-cast wizard, and then he has a 5-up ward as well. So what they don't have in armor, they have in the ward save. And then, I mean, if you run both of these, you've got 5 casts between 2 pretty beefy units. With 16 health and 14 health on these guys. So there's a lot of ways to really dish out some heat with your magic. All right, moving on to the Fate Skimmer. It's got a 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 8 health, 2 control. It's got a ranged weapon. It's the Iridescent Flames. It's 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage D3, and it has the weird flame ability. The melee weapons it's got, you got the Staff of Change and the Ritual Dagger. It's 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. And then the Screamer's Lamprey Bites are 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. They are anti-monster +1 rend, and it is a companion weapon. So the ability, so in your movement phase, you can do the Wake of Fire and pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3-up, the target has the burning keyword. So another way to get those burning units going, because once again, at the end of the turn, if you have all those burning units, you can, roll D3 mortals and just chip away at these units. At the end of any turn, fueling the Inferno, pick up to 3 burning enemy units within 12 inches of this unit to be the targets. Inflict 1 mortal damage on each target. So, in addition to the D3, if there are 3 burning units within 12 of this, you do an extra mortal onto those as well. It's got a 6-up ward save. It's the demon save. It is a wizard level 1. Got a little bit more movement here. You got a mobile hero. You got a wizard, and then just more burning, which is excellent. Moving on to the Changecaster. It's got a 6-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 5 health, control 2. It also has the same Iridescent Flame attack, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage D3 with the Weird Flame ability. And then the Staff of Change and Ritual Dagger, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. The Lurid Flames ability, add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly units that target a burning enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit. So that's just, if you're playing for all that burning, having one of these can help you, being +1 to hit in combat is awesome. Saves an all-out attack, or if someone has a -1 to hit, then you can all-out attack and still be positive there. That ability is awesome. It's passive too. You just have to be within 12 of him. Demonic Locust. Each time a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch demon unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. So, rolling 9 dice instead of 6, or 10 instead of 7. That just 3 extra dice on your rallies, or makes it so you can bring back units you normally wouldn't be able to bring back, which is super solid. And being able to heal if a wizard or someone, one of your heroes is getting beat up, and okay, we're gonna roll 10 dice on this, or 9 dice on this, whatever. You're gonna heal 4 or 5 wounds, and that's super solid. Once again, level 1 wizard, 6 up ward. You can make this very magic heavy with your heroes, because almost every single hero is a wizard. Chaos Spawn of Tzeentch. 5 up armor save, 2d6 movement, 5 health, 1 control. Its melee weapons, the freakish mutations, 2d6 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 4s. No rend, damage 1. Crit 2 hits, and it is a companion. And the deployment phase, it's the Twisted Fate ability. Set up this unit in reserve as a potential fate. It has now been deployed. So this essentially is just they have the spell where you turn someone into a chaos spawn. That's what this is. Since it's a beast, it has a maximum control score of 1. The waves of mutation, each friendly chaos spawn of Tzeentch unit can be replaced any number of times. If this dies, you can bring it back as much as you want. It's not like a one-time, this unit has already come back. You just keep bringing it back, which is super solid. The Changeling, you got a 5 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 6 health, control 2. The Trickster's Staff is its melee weapon. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage d3. Your typical wizard profile, I feel like. In the deployment phase, you have the Arch Deceiver ability. Remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 3 inches from all enemy units. So you can just get nice and close with him. His War Scroll spell is called Discord and Confusion. Make a casting roll of 2d6. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target this unit until the start of your next turn. In addition, until the start of your next turn, roll a dice. Each time this unit is targeted by an ability that is not an attack ability on a 4+, another eligible unit must be targeted by that ability instead of this unit. If it is not possible to target another unit, that ability has no effect. You can't target him with a whole bunch of stuff, spells and things like that. If you roll 4 up, it has to go to someone else, which is really nice, especially because he's going to be right up in. If you're deploying him right next to your opponent, then keeping him safe is really solid. Puckish Misdirection. And this is in your enemy hero phase. Pick an enemy unit within 9 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Have the target's move characteristic for the rest of the turn. Super solid. It is on a dice roll though. A 3-up isn't too crazy, but it's still 2/3 chance you get it off. So it's got to be nice and close. You got to be within 9 inches, but it's pretty solid. If you got a big cavalry block or something that you're trying to slow down, or some fast moving monsters, you can have their move characteristic, which is really solid. He's also a level 2 wizard. You get 2 casts, you get 2 cracks at everything, which is nice. Yeah, just a solid little wizard hero. We're moving into the units now. We've got the Pink Horrors. You got a 6 up armor save, 6-inch movement, 2 health, and 1 control. The ranged weapons, the Arcane Flames, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And those have the weird flame ability. And then their melee weapons is the Taloned Hands. 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s. No rend, 1 damage. So they're, probably doing more damage through ranged. But the recursion and kind of the setup here with the Pink Horrors, and we'll get to the Blue Horrors in a second, is pretty awesome. So the Lunatic Demise. Each time a model in this unit is slain, before removing the model from play, pick one of the following effects. Pick a friendly Blue Horrors and Brimstone Horrors unit within 12 inches of this unit. Return up to 2 slain Blue Horrors models to that unit. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target and roll a dice on a 4+. Inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So if you have blue horrors that are close to your pinks, you can bring 2 of them back. It does say 2 slain, so you can't bring back, as I understand it, you can't bring back more. You can't bring more than the max. The other one, being able to do mortals when they die, is pretty solid as well. Especially being on a 4-up, you see a lot of units in the game that have, on a 5-up inflict mortal damage back, but these guys being on a 4-up is pretty solid. And then they do have their 6-up demon save. Moving on to the blue horrors and brimstone horrors, they have 6-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. The arcane flames is their ranged weapon. It's 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, 1 damage with the weird flame ability. And then the blues have the Spiteful Talons, which are 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. The Brimstone Horrors have the Impish Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rend, damage 1. They can split again, so if pinks die, they bring back blues. If blues die, they can be Brimstones. So each time a blue horror model in this unit is slain, before removing the model from play, roll a dice. On a 3+, you can add 1 Brimstone horror model to this unit. You cannot have more than 10 blue horror models and 10 Brimstone models in a non-reinforced unit. You cannot have more than 20 blue horror models and 20 Brimstone horror models in a reinforced unit. So it's essentially just saying you can't get over the max, what you started the unit out with. This is a good way to just get like a humongous unit in there, and you just got to chew through all those wounds is pretty tough. And so using pinks together with blues, if they're next to each other, you can just kind of make these units that are really tough to bring down. Moving on to the Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. It's got a 5-up armor save, a 12-inch movement, 6 health, and 2 control. Its ranged weapon is the Weird Flame Blast. It's a 16-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. It is anti-infantry plus 1 rend, and it has the Weird Flame keyword. For melee weapons, it's got the Flaming Maws and Blue Horror's Jabs. So you got 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1. And then the Screamer's Lamprey Bites, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. And then they're anti-monster plus 1 rend and have the companion keyword. So it has the Wake of Fire ability. So in your movement phase, pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3+, the target has the burning keyword. Very similar to the Fate Skimmer. So you just pass over them. You roll that 3-up. They're burning as well. Just a solid unit. The 16-inch range on the Weird Flame Blast is a little weird, but the D3 damage can hit pretty hard if you get those through. Moving on to the Screamers of Tzeentch. You've got a 5-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 3 health, control 1. The Lamprey Bites are 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. They are anti-monster plus 1 rend, and it has the companion keyword. So in your movement phase, you have the Slashing Fins ability. Pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this phase to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in this unit that passed across the target. For each 4+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. You're seeing a lot of things, right, where with certain units you pass across and you do mortals, or you can make them burning, because armor-wise, this is not a very tanky army. It's very much more movement-based and magic-based, and being able to just kind of chip away at things slowly. And so keeping things alive and keeping things out of combat, I think, and knowing when to go into certain combats is a huge part of this army. It has the Beast keyword, so it has a maximum control score of 1. So these are not going to be your objective getters necessarily, unless objectives are wide open. They are very quick. They move 14 inches, which is very, very fast. But being control 1 as a whole is a little tricky to be able to contest objectives. We got the Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch, 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 4 health, control 1. It's got the Weird Flame Blast, which is 16-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3, anti-infantry plus 1 rend, and the Weird Flame keyword. The Flaming Maws are 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. In the shooting phase, you got the Capricious Weird Flame. Add 1 to wound rolls for this unit's shooting attacks that target a burning enemy unit. Keep everything on fire is the theme of this army. And then once per turn per army in your shooting phase, you can use the Transmogrifying Beacon. So pick another friendly Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch or Flamers of Tzeentch unit within this unit's combat range to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target's ranged weapons have crit 2 hits for the rest of the turn. So these you'd want to take with either the Flamers unit or, which we'll talk about here in a second, or you take a couple of Exalted Flamers so they're kind of just buffing each other, and at least one of them will have crit 2 hits, assuming you roll that 3+. Once again, burning is huge in this army. If you can make everything burning and you just slowly chip away. Moving on to the Flamers of Tzeentch. They got a 5-up armor save, 9-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. The Warping Flames, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. No rend, damage D3, and their anti-infantry +1 rend with the Weird Flame keyword. And then the Flaming Maws with 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. No rend, damage 1. With all the Flamers, you don't really want them to be in combat necessarily. You want them to be shooting and burning. And this also has the Capricious Weird Flame. Add 1 to wound rolls for this unit's shooting attacks that target a burning enemy unit. So if you're doing your job right, you should be, with your shooting attacks, you should be wounding on 3s most of the time with any Flamers, because you should work on making sure everything is burning the entire game. Okay, we've got the Gaunt Summoner on Disc of Tzeentch. You got a 4-up armor save, 14-inch move, 6 health, 2 control. Its ranged weapon is the Change Staff, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. It does have crit mortals. And then the melee weapons are the Warp Tongue Blade, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then the Disc's Teeth and Horns, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. And it has the companion keyword. In the deployment phase, you can use the Minions of the Silver Tower ability. Pick a friendly unit that has not been deployed to be the target. The target is set up in reserve in a Silver Tower. It has now been deployed. So that kind of, you can set them off to the side. It's kind of what the teleport shenanigan we've been talking about. It's in the tower. And then in your movement phase, you can pick a friendly unit in a Silver Tower to be the target. Set up the target on the battlefield wholly within 12 inches of this unit and more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. You can bring guys off the board and use him as kind of like an anchor point. His War Scroll spell is called Arcane Imprisonment. It goes off on a 7. If the unmodified casting roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, it is automatically destroyed. For the rest of the battle, that unit cannot be picked to be the target of an ability that allows a replacement to be set up. You do have to pick an enemy hero that's in combat with this unit. So he's got to be fighting, which isn't super hard because his move is 14. So you can get wherever you need to go. And that this is just an easy way to pick off Littlefoot heroes, essentially. If you kill that hero, they can't be set up as a replacement. If you have some way to bring them back, they can't. So, and that's automatic. You don't have to roll for that, which is nice. I feel like a lot of things are like, oh, on a 4+, then that happens. But this is just, if you get the spell off, the guy dies and cannot be brought back. So pretty solid. And then you have the Gaunt Summoner, just the Foot Wizard. He's got a 6-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. He has the Change Staff as well, so 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3 with the crit mortals. And then the Warp Tongue Blade, so same thing, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. He has the same Minions of the Silver Tower, so you can put people into the Silver Tower, and then you can bring them back and use him as an anchor point as well. And then his War Scroll spell is called Divert Realm Gate. So make a casting roll of 2d6. Goes off on a 7. Units set up this turn using this unit's Book of Profane Secrets ability can be set up wholly within 18 inches of this unit and more than 7 inches away from all enemy units instead of the distances in the ability. So essentially it just makes the range of your Silver Tower, those units coming out of the Silver Tower, much bigger. 18 inches is huge, and then you can be 7 inches away instead of 9 inches. Makes it a much more doable charge if you're going all in right off the bat. Both he and the Gaunt Summoner on the disc are 2-cast level 2 wizards. You'll be casting a lot of spells. Okay, moving on to the Magister on Disc of Tzeentch. You got a 4-up armor save here, 14-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. The Tzeentchian Rune Staff is an 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. No rend, damage D3 with the Weird Flame keyword. And then the melee weapons, you've got the Warp Steel Sword, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. And the disc's Teeth and Horns, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage D3. And that has the companion keyword. Abilities, he's got Magic Touched. So in your hero phase, if this unit successfully cast a spell, this phase for the rest of the turn, add 1 to this unit's power level. If 2 or more dice in the casting roll for this unit have the same value, the spell fails, its effect is not resolved, and d6 mortal damage is inflicted on this unit. So it's an easy way to get a second spell because it's only a wizard level 1 at the risk of rolling doubles and taking d6 instead of d3 mortals is a little risky because you can kill this guy in one go because he does not have a ward save. So with only 6 health, if you roll on the d6 and you rolled a 6 and he just died immediately, that would be quite tragic. And then his other ability is the Master of the Blazing Skies. While they are within this unit's combat range, friendly Disc of Tzeentch units can use charge abilities even if they used a run ability in the same turn. If you're running Skyfires around him, you can run and charge. And so since they're already moving 14, you're really zooming across the board with that. No ward save on this guy though, but he does have a 4-up armor save. But that's something to be aware of when you're doing things, especially when you're magic touched. The Curseling Eye of Tzeentch, 3-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. No ward save on this guy either. He is a level 2 wizard. So his ranged weapons, you got Hurled Arcane Energy. It's 18-inch range, d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1 with the Weird Flame keyword. And then the Staff of Tzeentch and the Blazing Sword. 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. His abilities, you've got the Disruptor of the Arcane. Each time this unit unbinds a spell, roll a dice. On a 4+, subtract 1 from the power level of the enemy wizard that used that spell ability to a minimum of 0 until the start of your next turn. That's pretty nasty. Making a wizard unable to cast spells is pretty insane. I don't think it's going to come super often where you're going to put someone down to 0, because if they used a spell, they won't be able to use another one. But I mean, if you have a level 2 wizard, a level 3 wizard, and they're down a spell all of a sudden, that's super awesome. And if you're playing Tzeentch, you're probably going to have a lot of wizards anyways, and so you'll be dominating magic. That just adds to the ability to dominate in the magic phase, in the hero phase. His War Scroll spell is called Infusion Arcanum. Make a casting roll of 2d6. It goes off on a 5, which is super low. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the rend and damage characteristic of this unit's Staff of Tzeentch and Blazing Sword. So, rend 2, damage 3 gets pretty nice, especially on rolling a 5 on that is pretty easy to do. So, pretty solid little wizard, especially considering that it's a 3-up armor save with a wizard is really solid. There's no ward save here either, but a little squishier than with no ward save. But level 2 wizard is super solid, and his War Scroll spell is awesome. Okay, moving on to the Magister. He's got a 4-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. He has a Tzeentchian Rune Staff, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3 with the Weird Flame keyword. And the Warp Steel Sword, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. He's also magic touched, same as the Magister on the disc, so we're not going to cover that again. But he does have the Web of Intrigue. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target until the start of your next turn. Each time your opponent declares a move ability for the target before reactions are used, you can pick a friendly Arcanite unit that is not in combat and is within 12 inches of the target. That friendly unit can move 3 inches, but it cannot move into combat during any part of that move. So just a little sneaky way to kind of move around. It's like Mighty Destroyers, the orcs, but you can't go into combat. You got your 3 inches, you can kind of slide around with another Arcanite unit that's, within 12 of this guy. The Ogroid Thaumaturge, 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 8 health, 2 control. The Thaumaturge Staff, 12-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage D3. And then the melee weapons, you got the Great Horns and Cloven Hooves. 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, and then charge +1 damage there. And then the staff is also a melee weapon. 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage D3. He's got a passive ability, it's the Thaumaturge Rage. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks while it is damaged. That's pretty solid, because if you charged in and took some damage, you're hitting on 3s, and I mean, you're still wounding on 2s, but then you're, and then once per turn per army, at the end of any turn, you can use the Burning Fury ability. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by this unit's combat attacks to be the target. The target has the Burning keyword. This guy's also a wizard level 1 with a 6-up ward. So you got a wizard, you got more burning stuff, and he has 8 health. So as a foot hero, he's a little thicker than everybody else. Still on a 5-up armor save, and that 6-up ward save is not super reliable. But if he gets in on the charge and takes a little bit of damage, then he's hitting pretty hard. The Zangor Shaman, 5-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. The Staff of Ritual Change and the Ritual Dagger. It's got 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. The Discs, Teeth and Horns, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3 with a companion keyword. His ability, Rite of Haste, is in your hero phase. Pick a friendly Warflock unit that does not have fly and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+ for the rest of the turn. The target can use a run ability and still use shoot and or charge abilities later in the turn. Run, shoot, and charge is awesome. I play Neth Deepkin quite a bit, and my entire turn 2 shenanigan is run, shoot, and charge with everybody. And so him being able to pick someone, most likely your Skyfires, to be able to run and shoot and charge really gets him around the board wherever you need him to go. And then at the end of any turn, you can use Mutagenic Sorcery. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the enemy target. Then pick a friendly Zangor's unit in combat with that enemy unit to be the friendly target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the enemy target equal to the roll. Return a number of slain models to the friendly target equal to the roll. So this is not returning wounds, this is slain models. And so if you've got your Zangors, we'll get to them here in a minute, but on the ground, and you're able to bring back a couple of them while doing mortal damage to the other guys, is super solid. And this just happens as long as you're within 12. On a D3 at a 2-up, you're rolling that, you're picking off a couple guys, bringing back a couple guys each time. The Zangor Shaman is also a level 1 wizard, so he's going to be casting spells as well. The Zangor Skyfires are a 4-up armor save, 14-inch movement, 4 health, 1 control. The range weapons, the Arrow of Fate, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage D3. And then the Bow Staff and Vicious Beak, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, 1 damage. And then the Discs, Teeth and Horns, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage D3 with a companion keyword. Guided by the Future, it's a passive ability, so you ignore negative modifiers to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's shooting attacks. And then in your shooting phase, Judgment from Afar is the ability. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it by this unit's attacks this phase to be the target. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Warflock units that target that enemy unit for the rest of the turn. So these guys are shooting, and then they're zooming in, getting into combat. If you do any damage, you're +1 to hit, which is super solid. So then you're hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s with everything. Moving on to the regular Zangors. These guys have a 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. The Savage Blade and Vicious Beak is 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. The Savage Great Blade, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. 2 of the 5 models can, instead of having the Savage Blade, can take the Savage Great Blade. The champion cannot replace their weapons. So if you got a reinforced unit of 10 of these guys, you can have, as I understand it, 4 of these guys can have a Savage Great Blade. And then their ability is called Screeching Raiders. While this unit is wholly within enemy territory, its weapons have crit 2 hits. So when you're rolling 6s, you get an extra hit. The Zangor Enlightened, 4 up armor save, 6-inch movement, 3 health, 1 control. They have the Tzeentchian Spear and Vicious Beak. It's 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then their ability is any charge phase. If this unit charges this phase, pick an enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. And these guys are just slightly better than your Zangors, but they have that nice anti-command on a 3-up. Neither these guys nor the Zangors have a ward save, so that's something to keep an eye on. The Zangors are kind of a little squishy. And then the Zangor Enlightened on discs. They got a 4-up armor save, 14-inch move, 4 health, 1 control. They have the Tzeentchian Spear and Vicious Beaks, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then the discs, as we've seen a whole bunch, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. Their ability is called Guided by the Past. This unit's Tzeentchian Spears and Vicious Beaks have charge +1 damage if you are the underdog, or it was determined at the start of the battle round that you would take the second turn. Them being damage 3 on the charge if you're the underdog or you're going second is pretty awesome. And they're just, once again, just another super fast unit. They're zooming around all over the place. And they work really well with the Zangor Shaman as well, being able to run and charge and all that good stuff. Moving on to the Kherik Acolytes. They got a 5-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. These guys can kind of split up a whole bunch of different stuff. So 3 of 10 can take the Cursed Glaive instead of the Cursed Blade. 1 in 10 models armed with the Cursed Blade can be accompanied by a Volchark. 1 in 10 models armed with the Cursed Blade can carry a Scroll of Dark Arts. And the champion cannot be accompanied by a Volchark or carry a Scroll of Dark Arts. So we'll hop into this. The Sorcerer's Bolt, which all of them have, is 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1 with the Weird Flame ability. And then the Cursed Blade, which they all have unless you replace it. It's 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. The Cursed Glaive, which 3 out of the 10 in the unit can take. Instead of the Cursed Blade, are 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. The Volchark, while this unit includes any models accompanied by Volcharks, subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards within 12 inches of this unit. That's super awesome. -1 to cast is just so good. It's super, super awesome. Once again, this is an army that dominates the magic phase if they want to. Gestalt sorcery. If this unit includes any models carrying a Scroll of the Dark Arts, roll a dice, add 1 to the roll for each other friendly Kherik Acolytes unit within this unit's combat range. On a 5+, add 1 to the rend characteristic of this unit's Sorcerous Bolts for the rest of the turn. If you're getting an extra rend if you roll that 5-up. If you take a couple units of these and they're just all right next to each other, then you're adding 1 to that roll, so you're getting up to 4-up. If you have 3 units that are all right next to each other, it's on a 3-up. The Jade Obelisk, 4-up armor save here, 5-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. Another one where you do a whole bunch of replacing. So they all have Mason's tools, but 4 out of the 10 can replace their Mason's tools with an Antithete bow and Jade dagger. 1 out of 10 is an Idolarch and is armed with a stone-like beak instead of any other weapons. And then the champion is a Nephrite priestess and cannot replace their weapons. So the bows are 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 0, damage 1. The Mason's tools are 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1. And it has the anti-faction terrain keyword here, +1 rend. Very interesting. It's the first time I think I've ever seen that, which makes sense because in Mason's tools, they're just carving up a building, I guess. The Jade Dagger is 1 attack, 4s to hit, 4s to wound, no rend, damage 1. And the Stone-like Beak is 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, damage D3. The Stone Cursed Resolved, ignore all modifiers to save rolls for this unit, positive and negative. So there's going to be on a 4-up save no matter what. And then cast down the Idol, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for attacks that target faction terrain. So for whatever reason, these guys are just anti-faction terrain. I don't think I've ever seen these guys on the board ever. The models are super cool. I like the models a ton, but I don't think they have a whole lot of play. But that is the army review for the Disciples of Tzeentch. It's super fun army. I think I like the models a lot. I think they look super cool. The play style is fun, very mobile, zooming around. You got a bunch of different ways you can play it. All of the burning things really make it hard to keep your guys alive if you're playing against them. The spell lores are solid, and I mean it's just there's a lot of really good things happening. If you like the video, hit like, subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get out as much content as we can. Battle reports are coming. I've said that in the past couple of videos. Battle reports are coming. We're just trying to find times to film them. Leave a comment down below, armies you want to see. I'm planning on going through every single one of them as we go. But if there's a specific one that you want to see, let us know. We're working on getting army lists out for these army reviews that we've done so far. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.